So a couple of questions I could ask you on the first lab midterm would be just identify the tissue. So this is the ovary, and I'll tell you how I know that in just a minute. Other questions I could ask you would be identify different structures in the tissue, like follicles or corpus luteum, anything of that nature. So, under ovary, okay, you have follicles. Let me see somebody's original list. Okay. I've only got 2 follicle types on here because reproductive is going to be a section all in itself, and we'll talk about all the different follicle types then. But all these little things that look like little bubbles, those are all follicles. Even this larger one, that's a follicle. On the inside of it, there's that little circle, that's the egg. Okay, all of these tiny follicles have eggs in them too. So that's one thing to help you identify follicular tissue.
So is that the Graafian follicle?
It's not the Graafian follicle yet. Graafian follicles are very, very large. I'm going to look for one. All right, there is one right here, but we can't see its egg. Here's how to identify a Graafian follicle. They are full of fluid. Fluid comes across on a histological slide as this empty space. Okay, so this is a Graafian follicle. It is very, very large and fluid filled. Normally, you would also see an additional circle in here with an egg inside, and I'll get another ovarian slide and I'll show you a complete Graafian follicle, but this is as much as we have on this slide. What is really good on this slide is what's called a corpus luteum. A corpus luteum is a very, very large, larger than a Graafian follicle, solid structure. I'm not even going to be able to get it all in this picture. Okay, so here's the outline of it starting, going around. It would keep going outside of the field of vision. This is all a corpus luteum. This is our first look at glandular tissue. The corpus luteum is literally a gland that secretes progesterone. Glandular cells are very dense, which means they are all packed tight together. And they are very round and plump looking because they are full of whatever it is that they are going to secrete. So every glandular tissue that we look at is going to have a very similar look to what we're seeing here. Okay, this is a corpus luteum. The other thing that's going to make it a little bit easier for you guys is because I have a camera loaded into my ocular lens. This is a larger magnification than you would see just looking through the ocular lenses, so you would get to see the entire piece of tissue, whereas I can't get any farther away than this. So we're a little bit closer than you're going to be when you look through it. Let me see if there's anything else I want to show you. Not really. Here, there's a small corpus luteum back here. This is a mouse ovary, and mice tend to have several corpus luteum, and humans only have one. But so that's why we see a second corpus luteum there. All right, let me see. Bless you. Okay, this is another very definitive tissue. This is a thyroid gland. All thyroid tissue looks the same, and I've heard a lot of different descriptions. I've heard bubbles, I've heard scales, I've heard spongy. Okay, whatever this looks like to you, use it, because all thyroid tissue looks like this. It has these very light colored pink bubbles all through it, of all different sizes. These are actually also called follicles, but these ones don't have eggs inside. They will never ever have an additional circle or be filled with a white fluid. They will always be all different sizes throughout the tissue, and they will be pink on the inside. Now I do want to go to a little bit higher of a magnification to point out a few things. Okay. Couple of structures you have under thyroid gland. One of them is colloid. Colloid is the pink stuff on the inside. Colloid is what the thyroid gland needs to make thyroid hormone. if I were baking a cake, the colloid for my cake would be flour and sugar and baking powder. That would be the colloid for the cake. For thyroid hormone, okay, all the starting ingredients are a part of the colloid. That's what's sitting in there. The cells, is follicular cell and parafollicular cell on your list?
Yes.
Okay. The cells that immediately outline the colloid, those are follicular cells because they are making the follicle. Every once in a while, there will be cells that are not a part of a follicle, like right here. This mass of cells, those are called parafollicular cells. Para means beside. Okay, so a parafollicular cell is a cell beside a follicle. So if it's outlining the colloid, it's a follicular cell. If it's not associated with any follicles, it is called a parafollicular cell. Drop back down. There may be one more structure. I want to show you one here. Oh, there it is. Okay. There is an additional gland that is embedded into your thyroid tissue, and it is called the parathyroid. So you have two para words, so make sure you can tell them apart. Parafollicular and parathyroid. This is the parathyroid gland. It has the look of glandular tissue. It picks up a lot of stain. It's very dense. And if we were on a higher magnification, we would see that the cells are very round and very plump. If I ever ask you for the parathyroid gland, I will show it like this. So you see thyroid and parathyroid. I would never completely put it on the parathyroid gland so you couldn't see anything else. It's glandular tissue, and all glandular tissue looks the same. If you showed this to me, I would be hard-pressed to tell you that's the parathyroid unless I had some other visual cue. So it will always be shown to you like this, with both the parathyroid and the thyroid visible. So what is this? Colloid. And these? Follicular cells. These? Parafollicular cells. And this? Parathyroid. Very good. Okay, this is the testes. Okay. The testicles, when they're looked at under histological section, look like Cheerios. Okay, all have these circular structures that are empty on the inside. Okay, so that's one of the defining characteristics of the testes. So I could ask you, what type of tissue is this? It's the testes. Each one of the quote-unquote Cheerios that you see is called a seminiferous tubule. In the three-dimensional tissue, these tubules were each coming out towards you, and then the razor went through and chopped them so we can see down the middle. So each one of those circular structures is called a seminiferous tubule. Notice that inside the seminiferous tubule, it's not completely empty. Okay, there's always a little bit of a squiggly mark or line in there. That is the spermatozoa. Each one of these tubules is responsible for producing spermatozoa, and then the spermatozoa all pile up on the inside of the seminiferous tubule. And what you see are actually all their tails, all those whip-like tails, coming together and kind of tangling up. That's what you see for the spermatozoa. Let me take a quick look around. There's one more cell type I want you to know on this slide. It might take me a minute to find a really good representation of it. The cell type is called a Leydig cell, and they exist outside